The terrible horror movies of 2024 continue as Blumhouse Productions follows up their very bad Night Swim from earlier this year with Imaginary. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Imaginary. This is in theaters right now, and if you couldn't tell from my intro, this is not a good movie, not recommended, but we're going to talk about all the reasons why and a little bit about the plot here in just a moment. But first, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got movie and TV reviews up on the channel, and just about every day I post something new, so there's always a ton of stuff to check out. With that in mind, please consider subscribing, hit that like button down below, or comment down below. What did you think of this movie? Have you seen any movies of the horror genre in 2024 that you've liked so far? Maybe one that didn't hit theaters, maybe one that's under the radar. Let me know in the comments because so far it has not been great. All right. Night Swim is about this family who moves into the house of the stepmother's house when she was a kid. And she had her own imaginary friend, but her two stepdaughters are with her. The husband kind of goes off on business pretty soon into the movie. So if you're coming here for him, he is who plays him? Tom Payne. He plays the father, and you may know him from The Walking Dead and some other things. If you're here to see him, that's pointless. He's in about 20 minutes of the movie, and then shows up in a couple of scenes at the end. But for the most part, he's absent. So you have DeWanda Wise as Jessica, who is the stepmother, and then the girls are probably about 15, and then the other one is maybe like 8. I don't know if they say or not, but there's a fairly big age gap, between the two girls. And then you also have Betty Buckley, who is a great, theater actress, and she's no stranger to horror. She was in the 70s movie version of Carrie, but she plays the neighbor who actually babysat Jessica as she was a kid in that house. So we put together a few pieces from her in terms of, this young girl that's living there now, Alice, she has an imaginary friend. Well, you had an imaginary friend too, back in the day. And so, some of the pieces start falling together from that. I guess that's all I'll really say plot-wise. Not that this movie could be spoiled because it's terrible, but if you do want to see it, I'm not going to go into any kind of spoiler territory with the plot. But let's talk about how bad it is. So what's funny is, in the beginning of the year, you do expect some horror movies to kind of just be thrown in there. They make them for very cheap, usually less than $10 million. And so they turn a profit pretty easily. But at this point last year, 2023, we had, in terms of like horror, or even you could say action movies, we had Megan, which was pretty solid. You had Plane and Knock at the Cabin, which were like okay. Even the superhero movie we had by this point last year, Ant-Man, Quantumania. I know people craft on that. I thought it was okay. This year's superhero movie at the beginning of the year was Madam Web, which was god awful. So far this year we've got Night Swim, which was a D. In terms of action, we had Argyle, which I gave a D plus. Madam Web was an F. So thank God for Dune Part 2, because that is about the only one that was really much good this year, certainly in the action, horror, supernatural, any of those, sci-fi, any of those kind of genre pictures. Dune is about it. Because most of this year, in terms of the genre picks, have been pretty bad. And this is another one. So this actually might be worse than Night Swim. Blumhouse Productions gave us that movie as well. And they gave us Megan last year. I mean, they are the main source for any of the horror movies, really, of the last 15 years. I mean, they are behind maybe even more than that, maybe 20 years, because they're behind the Saw franchise too. But the Insidious franchise, which definitely gets some play here in this movie, the Conjuring franchise. So they've definitely given us a lot of good stuff over the years, but man, the consistency the last few years has been really, really hit or miss. And so far this year, 2 big misses. And the director here, Jeff Wadlow, he has not given us a whole lot of good stuff. Fantasy Island, which was a supernatural horror film. It is based loosely on the TV show from the 70s, which they just brought the TV show back. Fox did a couple of years ago, but this is not related to that. But that was an F. I hated that movie. And then the one he did before that was Truth or Dare. I thought that was okay. And then Kick-Ass 2 was a far cry from the first one. I think I maybe gave that a C minus, whereas the first one's like an A minus. So definitely not one of the great directors around. Maybe stop giving him money. But this movie is very poorly acted. I would say actually the best actor in this movie is probably the one little girl, Alice, the one with the imaginary friend, Chauncey, because with her, and let me get her name here, Piper Braun. Unfamiliar with her, but it does take a little talent to be, sort of playing two sides of the coin here, because she's kind of having this relationship with her imaginary friend, but, trying to be a normal girl at the same time and kind of dovetailing between the two. And as the movie goes further, we even see a little bit of the blurring of the lines there. So I think for a young actress, she actually did an okay job with the material. Everybody else here is pretty bad. DeWanda Wise, I am not sure what I might know her from. Okay, she was in the Spike Lee Netflix version of She's Gotta Have It. I remember that movie from back in the day, but I didn't watch the show. Anything else we might know her from? She's uncredited small role in Precious. Nobody cares about that. Jurassic World Dominion. Okay, well that movie stinks, so I wouldn't remember her from that. Other than that, some Law and Order stuff. Okay, well whatever. She was terrible in this, and I don't know if that's her or the script. The dialogue is terrible. She was terrible, but the biggest problem with this movie is the ending. Movies like this kind of live or die by how the end connects everything and how we make sense of everything. And this didn't. It went off the rails in like 4 different directions, none of which I thought were real satisfactory for an ending. And then we start cribbing from, I mentioned Insidious already, but there's some Coraline in there. There's a lot of, maybe even a little Five Nights at Freddy's because of the design of Chauncey once we finally do see him. It was just a complete mess. They didn't connect the characters very well to what was going on. And for some reason, they keep mentioning Bing Bong. Your drinking game for this movie is whenever they talk about Bing Bong. And of course, that is the imaginary friend in Inside Out, which, okay, that's fine, I guess. But there were at least 4 mentions of Bing Bong in this movie. This isn't even a Disney movie. So why are we talking about the imaginary friend from Inside Out, which, by the way, I mean, that's like an A+ of a movie. It's the complete other end of the scale. We don't need to remind the viewers about a much, much, much better movie throughout this one. That really did not make much sense for me. But there's your drinking game. If you ever decide to watch this movie, maybe late at night at a sleepover or something, then like that's where a movie like this, I think, might do something for you. But you're having your drinks or whatever, and they start talking about Bing Bong. That's when you pound them back because, boy, you can't escape it in this movie for whatever reason. I give Imaginary an F. This is not worse than Madam Web, I would say, but it is worse than Night Swim, which I also thought was pretty bad from earlier this year. So we need to get some good horror movies in for the rest of 2024. For now, we'll leave it with this one and an F. But if you want to go see it in theaters, it is there right now. I'm sure soon to be on streaming with such a tepid response at the box office. All right, thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.